Welcome to episode 14 of Books and Bourbon. If you look closely around the room, you'll see that one of us is a repeat guest. So normally
all 14 episodes.
Most of them.
It's true.
Normally we wait and build some suspense, but Bill was way too excited. So for those that recognize him, Bill Martlink is back in the house. Bill, good to have you back.
I wish we had the sound effects so we could do the audience.
We can have the booing or all kinds of good sound effects.
I got the official logo shirt on today. So I keep looking down here, but I need to remember to look up there. So hello, everyone. Happy to be back. I'm honored to be the first time repeat offender and excited to, shed some more knowledge and be with this guy in Denver, live on site. So excited. And David has something to say about our background.
Oh.
We rehearsed this. The one thing we rehearsed. Everything else could be off the cuff. I promise you that. However, what was I supposed to say? Okay, I'm taking it. Finally, we, as in he, beat the best background, I believe, for 2 times in a row. The only thing in my contract is that I need a good background, and so David was one to scout out hundreds, if not singles, of locations, and here we are with a great background here. So I think again we have the second best background for this, and I'll drink to that. Cheers.
Hey, cheers.
I don't know. Caleb's got bourbon in his background. Cheers. You guys have books. I don't have books or bourbon, so I might have the worst background right now.
Which would be the first time.
Right.
Finally, we've left him in our dust, so he'll be working hard on that. For those that are watching the podcast on audio versions, which rolled out this week, we're still waiting for approval from Spotify and I think Apple and some other cool sites. Matthew can fill us in there. For those that are watching with their ears, so to speak, Dave and Bill have a nice background with beautiful shelving. It's very geometric, which I'm a fan of, and some lopsided cockeyed books. So that's going to drive me a little crazy the entire show.
So there were some scanners here earlier. We booted them out and we retouched what we could, but we only had a few minutes. We had a little logistical nightmare heading before the event. On my affinity for Jack Daniels, and the first place we went to didn't have Jack Daniels, and so
crazy.
David's like,
That is crazy.
and I'm like, get out of the car, and then I realized it's not my car, and so I had, we had to just trudge on.
They had Pappy, they had barrel aged, they had everything, and he's like, I have to have my Jack.
Well, you could have been like
Jack,
our guest last week, Avery, and assume that Fireball was a bourbon, but
Fireball shooters, multiple at the same time.
I did actually have somebody text me after the show and say, I can't believe your guest asked if Fireball is a bourbon. Can we fire you? And I said, you're welcome to try, but Avery's somewhat a well-known staple. Speaking of Avery, he did make a comment about your weight, I believe, Bill and Dave. So you guys might want to take this up. He says 2 of the biggest booksellers in the game.
Yeah.
So
it's a heavy shoes to fill, but I guess. I mean, I'm doing the tour to meet up some of our largest clients, and number 1 on the list, I had made the trip out to California, as some of you all know, back to San Diego and LA back pre-pandemic, but now I'm back on the run and on the table and on flights into a city near you sometimes. But had to stop at our number 1-ish guy here, David, and I'll drink to that.
And I was telling Bill he's probably visiting all his clients from least important to most, saving the best for last.
And for those that can't tell, Bill is probably 6'6", 6'5", and the thought of you riding or flying in a plane with a small chair is a little bit funny. So hopefully Glenn treats you right. You get some first class upgrades, and you can have a little more legroom.
I'm gathering points. That's all I'm doing.
You're really that tall? You're 6. How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4"?
Yeah.
I mean, there's inflation, so that kind of applies to everything.
I know it kind of changes things a little bit,
Is used to lying about their height. We'd show up to gym. I played high school basketball. We'd show up to gyms, and the other point guard would be listed at 6'4", and you get out there, and there's no way he's even 5'10". You're like, okay, I guess I'm less worried about your 7-foot center at this point.
Right. Yeah, no, 6'4" in the flesh, and it's been an advantage for me, even in the book selling world. That extra reach back when I was doing the cherry picking days, and David and I were reminiscing earlier today on kind of the steps that led us to become 2 of the larger folks in the game. Thank you again, Avery, for that. And just kind of we're walking through our history and excited to share all those juicy details with the world today and beyond. Can we send this video to Mars so we could be intergalactic? Can we do that?
We could try. I don't know that anybody's listening up there, but if they are, they can wow themselves with book knowledge. This will be exciting.
Perfect. Well, we're game.
Awesome. Well, Bill, before we jump in, we'll get to what we're drinking. We'll get to some industry news, and of course, we'll get to the interview, which is a reverse interview today. But before we jump in, what's Dave been showing you around Denver? What do you love about Denver, and is he making sure that you're taken care of while you're there?
Definitely. I got to tour his warehouse today, which was super exciting. We'll touch more on that in a little bit, of course. He got to show me the artistic district and the area that was one of the worst areas to live in.
Can you guess what neighborhood I showed him, Caleb and Matthew?
Rhino?
Yeah, Rhino.
Mm-hmm. So he threatened to drop me off if I misbehaved. But then he said, well, actually, it's a nice area. So
It is a nice area.
yeah. But no, I got to tour the area and had some great breakfast. And we have a nice dinner plan this evening. And I mean, time like this is invaluable. You know, we were talking about this earlier, too, that emails, calls, and Zooms are great, but nothing beats in the flesh.
Yeah. You can't do that over Zoom.
No, you can't.
Nope. Oh, no. Sorry. Just get left hanging here. But yeah, I would echo that in terms of anytime you get a chance to meet up in person, and no, we're not just trying to sell access to a course or something or a meetup. Anytime you get a chance, do that. If you see someone doing a Top Golf meetup or just an industry event, jump on it, say hello, even if you're not or even if you're not outgoing. If you are shy, take advantage of that, jump in. You won't regret it. That'll build some real conversation, some real connection, and who knows what that can lead to.
It holds true in any industry, right? Especially in this one, since it's so tightly knit. But back, to reflect in my earlier days, I can't tell you how invaluable it was to network with folks that did what I do, and do what I did and all that. And just one little nugget can pay for that event or that trip, and just those connections can lead to greater things later on. And that's any industry, but especially I would say this one because of how small it is. And I mean, we were talking about that. We just talked about everything apparently. We just talk. But we touched on that as well on how unique this space is. So again,
perfect. Well, right along those lines, Dan Watson says, "I'd love to tour some of the other sellers out there. It would be great to see how others solve the same problems." Dan, reach out. I know some bulk sellers are cautious. Bill won't let me anywhere near his warehouse. I don't know if it's because I smell funny or what's going on, but
yes.
Most sellers will be open to you coming out. Don't just knock on their door. Make sure you reach out, say hey. But that is certainly something you can take advantage of. You can also go tour Amazon's warehouses, and you'll pick up some tips and tricks there as well. Of course, they have billions of dollars at their disposal and robots and everything else. But you might learn a thing or two that you can apply to your business. See what I did there?
Should we talk about what we're drinking?
You can literally learn from A to Z.
There it is. Yeah, let's talk about what we're drinking. Since it is Books and Bourbon, this is the show that's mostly about books and a little bit about bourbon. So we already know that Bill and Dave had to run around and get Jack Daniels. Did you get regular Jack? Did you get single barrel? What are you drinking there?
Little guy, because I'm only here for a day and a half, and this would still last a lot longer than that. But I'll leave it in your hands. I'll leave it in good hands. So as what I do, I was mentioning this again. I'm sorry, I'll stop saying that. But for the fifth time of things we were talking about earlier, when I come to a new place and visit someone in their home, I do like to present them with an alcoholic gift, and then they can remember me or help forget me. Based on that. So yeah, regular Jack for Bill here, and it'll do. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Dave, are you joining him in the Jack endeavor, or are you back on your instant?
Maybe later. Courtesy of SBYB, we got you can't really see it, but it's a Prost beer. It's a Kolsch, and it's just a nice light beer. And I was tempted to pick up like that $200 bottle of tequila on Bill, but I decided not to.
Next time.
Make some real good margaritas.
I'm sure Glenn appreciates that.
Sorry, I had a refill.
Perfect. Matthew, what do you got over there?
I got some barrel bourbon today.
Yes.
Nice.
Another one of our developers' favorites. But yeah, I like barrel bourbon. I haven't had them a lot, but I've had a few recently and I liked it, so I picked some up. It's good.
Is that their Infinity barrel?
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yep. 4,836. It's bottle number 4,836. I like how they put the text on the barrel. You can see when it was made, how many bottles it is, what proof, and all that. That like the way they write it. It's like handwritten on there almost.
For a second, I thought that was the price tag, 4,836.
That's lower than the price tag, but it's close.
Okay.
Yeah, wait 3 years. The bourbon will probably cost that much in USD.
For sure.
I am drinking Elijah Craig, just nothing fancy. It's their small batch, 94 proof. Their website says it is the color of burnished copper, so that's something encouraging. But it's got little smoky notes. They said it's charred in level 3 oak barrel, so that's exciting. And it does have notes.
I recommend level 3.
Yeah, level 3 is like perfect. It's Goldilocks. I think it goes 1 to 5, but don't hold it to that.
Yep. Yeah, I had that 4 and 5. Terrible experience. I ended up in Denver one day after a 5.
Way too smoky. Well, gentlemen, cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
Hey, we can actually do that.
We can actually do that instead of the virtual
person. Yeah.
Yeah, how about it?
There it is. Somebody gave us a recommendation. If anybody has recommendations, we are open to it. Brenda says we should all try Revel Stoke Roasted Pecan or Pecan whiskey. It's smooth, my favorite. So we'll have to check that out as well. And someone else says they have a bottle of 12-year Macallan Scotch. It's Scotch, so it's not bourbon. I don't know if we can approve that, but Dan, if we're ever in the same neck of the woods, we'll take you up on that gift as well.
I'll add it to my list, Dan. You got it. Count on it.
Any before we jump into the interview, any industry news that we should be aware of? I have something industry adjacent we could talk about, but I'm curious if you guys have any industry news.
Prime Day, but that probably had a broadcast or two since, so nope.
Did you guys pick up anything at Prime Day? Bill, did you get anything good?
I was not one of the 300 million items. I was not one of the. I did not purchase one of the 300 plus million items purchased. I think my wife helped contribute to that. Thanks again, dear. Nothing I needed. So thank you.
I didn't get anything this Prime Day either, specifically on Prime Day. Probably one day I should have shopped. I didn't.
Yeah, no. After the fact, I heard lots of things I probably would have gotten and should have gotten, but yeah.
Do you guys think the deals are actually that much better on Prime Day, or do you think most of the time it's just showing it's marked down when it's not really that marked down?
I think you can find some good deals. Like I saw like AirPod Pros or whatever that are normally $180. They were marked down, or 150 were marked down to 180. And yes, you can see that price here and there. Mm-hmm. But if you want a guaranteed day where you can like save guaranteed, I think it's Prime Day, at least from Amazon.
Yeah. I'll give you that, but I would also say that have those prices been there before? Sure.
Yes.
So yeah, but everybody has to almost like strong armed into getting their rock bottom value price. And I heard Frito-Lay chips were like the second most popular item or something
on Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah, like the big box of like variety pack or something. So
that's weird.
Frito-Lay is great job.
I know the Amazon specific products like their Echoes and Echo Dots and Fire tablets all really do have good sales on Prime Day. Those ones are legitimately marked down once a year.
For sure. Yeah. But most of the stuff I would say is all like, unnecessary and deals are real. Just look at Keepa. All right. From Romer. Well,
yes, they're real. Look at the data.
You're wrong. I'm happy to be
wrong. If Romer says it must be true.
On the internet. Hey, Colin, you got my text, I think. Yeah.
Colin from Chicago saying hello. So thanks for jumping in, Colin.
Colin's a client. I met him back at the Turn the Page in July of 2019. Him and his wife. Chicago is first time I met you. First time I met Caleb, and actually Romer as well. So and Colin. So yeah, what a great event. Feels like yesterday. I'll drink to that.
And yet, so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece of industry news, and I don't know if we should bring it up, but I feel like it's the right crowd. There's a new Instagram account. I think Matthew knows where I'm going with this. That is, it's a little fascinating. I think it's worth bringing up. They've been making fun of booksellers and some people from Romer's events. David, have you seen this account yet? Do you know what I'm referring to?
No.
So
you're all over it, David.
There's an Instagram account called OA. I think it's _troll, and they're just troll posting a lot of people. So I think they, I don't know if they've made fun of Romer yet. They've made fun of booksellers. They made fun of Romer's event.
Bring it on. Bring it.
So, Bill, you should reach out and just say roast me and see what they say.
It's not hard, believe me. Like literally go for it, and that's fine.
I'm guessing it was somebody in attendance at the Miami event, Miami 2022, just because they keep referencing a lot of the attendees from there. So that's just my hunch. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it's Dave's side account. And
so in a odd coincidence, attendance for the next event just completely plummeted. Everybody literally just canceled their in our
they're all afraid of it. No, I think it's funny. I think it's fun to poke fun at our industry at times, and whoever's doing it, props to you. I already reached out and said congrats. It's
fun.
Sounds like a must follow to me. So
I almost said roast me next, but I didn't know if my ego could handle that. So we'll see. Maybe if I get brave and drink a little more Elijah Craig, I'll reach back out.
I said it, and when you put yourself out there into the world, and again, that's in anything, you have to be able to handle the good and the bad, and maybe you're a little polarizing here or there, but like that's what gets people talking about you. So I mean, hey, but I try to be, as saintly as possible in everything I do. So I mean, go ahead, good luck trying to roast me because there's nothing you can find.
Well, you know what they say: if you can't beat them, roast them.
There you go.
Or maybe no one said that.
You just did. So write it down, put on a t-shirt, and sell it on Amazon, and have Reezy market it and license it. And there we go.
It's Miles' backup account, I guess.
It wouldn't surprise me. Miles was one of our guests, maybe on episode 12. I need that list up at some point, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was him.
I think it's funny. I think it's really good and adds legitimacy to what we're doing because, again, if it's not polarizing, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, if you're not a little hated, you're not noticed, you're not interesting, you're just kind of a whatever.
Nobody.
Yeah, you're definitely a nobody. Yeah. That's it.
I'm only saying that because I did see my face on
You are somebody, David.
Yeah,
we know. But
No.
so that's why I want to be legitimized. So come throw some hate at me. It's fine.
Bring it. Bring the taters. Well, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Normally, we bring a guest in and we grill them about how they started and what they're doing, how they pivoted, what mistakes they've made, what we can learn. We're going to flip the tables, kind of invert the script. So Bill asked for it. He asked for a little cameo, and then we said, "Well, heck, why don't you just run the show? You know what's going on. You probably watch more of these than we produced. I don't know how that's possible. Someone can check them out later. Our non-existent producer can check it, and our non-existent sponsors. Hello, we need to get sponsors going, but
we're ready. Bring back
we're
to
it.
Technically, this episode was sponsored by Sellback because,
Well, Matthew, you can throw something up, but brought to you by sellbackyourbook.com, of course,
right here.
Integrated directly into the beautiful Scout IQ app. So you can sell back your books, get guaranteed cash offers, and kind of cash out like a lottery ticket. There it is. Sellbackyourbook.com. The check is in the mail.
Wow, you're really selling it. Thanks.
Whether this is a good idea or not, we are going to turn the reins over to Bill. And Bill is going to sort of interview Dave. And by sort of, I mean he's absolutely going to interrogate Dave. And we're going to learn more about wherever Bill wants to take this conversation. So if you guys are new to the show, feel free. We do kind of take questions. Matthew and I are actually going to step out a bit and just leave Bill and Dave center stage. If you need us, we'll be here. But if you do have questions, go ahead and drop those. We like to be somewhat interactive. We will pop in and ask those questions, and then we will do a round of Q&A at the end of this. So all of that being said, Bill, the dance floor is yours.
I was hoping it was another Bill you were talking about. Well, as David and I were conversing earlier, we see this as more as a conversation and a co-host situation. But thank you for, I guess someone has to lead a little bit, so we can dance and then you can each follow each other at the appropriate time.
Yes,
okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a cameo and say hi and have a drink or two and then get out of here. But here I am. So we'll see how this goes, and maybe this will never happen again, and so what. But I appreciate your time, David. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is David, and I like long walks on the beach.
It's not that type of person. Okay. No. So obviously you're one of the tip-top sellers out there, and one of the first targets that we had when we were rolling out our bulk program. And little FYI, if you deal in bulk books, come talk to me. We'll take care of you. But as an aside, what got you motivated? Like, let's start back in the beginning. What got you excited and interested to even just start books? Like, walk me through the infancy stages before you got to bulk, and kind of bring me up to speed to to there.
For sure. I think I started a lot like most of the sellers out there, where again, it was born out of necessity and just finding an opportunity. And I think you would agree that the opportunity back in the 2000s looks a little bit different now.
Sure.
But definitely in the mid to late 2000s, that's when I started. And it just came out of really seeing an opportunity to, again, find an arbitrage opportunity, purchasing books for us that were left over from Goodwill stores, and find a market for it online. And that's how we started. I got to know a little bit about your history, cherry picking, and
Yep.
We were doing a lot of cherry picking, and how we sort of graduated into bulk, of course, is as the space became more and more crowded, just trying to pivot in a way where, again, you feel less of that competitional pressure. But yeah, that's kind of how I started and where we are now.
Yeah, I think that the cherry picking is a lot of fun and very profitable, but ultimately it comes down to luck. If you and I were going to the same store, and because at the time, not right away, but at some point I was buying for online and offline, I would literally leave, and maybe it's a personal collection, I would literally leave like nothing. And if I beat you to said store on the same route, you would have a clunker of a day. And if that luck continued and we had the same route and you were shortly behind me, like that's just an empty net for you, or a blocked shot for you.
So you mentioned Glenn, and you used to, again, cherry pick in the same location.
Yep.
Maybe not between you and Glenn, but between you and other buyers. Did it ever get kind of heated or physical? Or
Yeah, so
I'll share my story after.
I mean, many times, sometimes you rub people the wrong way. And so back in like the later stages of our cherry picking and library sale days, we had an event where I brought in a team of folks, friends and some workers and things. And we went to a library that I won't mention. And we had bed sheets, and we just threw the bed sheet over as a table, because like paperback books were 25 cents or something. And it was back in that early day where like $2 and $3 books were just, like a sweet spot, right? And the stuff would just move. And, anytime you can 10x your money or more, like, okay, great, sign me up. And so we would just throw bed sheets over the table and wanting to buy what's on it and what's below. And of course, some other sellers were annoyed because we were just taking, thousands and thousands of books. And even some of the staff was like, hey, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm buying everything. How else can I do it quickly? And they're like, oh, okay, you can do that.
Sure.
Like they quickly came on my side,
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't make too many friends in this business in that sense when, everybody, there's many times where people are friendly and can collaborate.
Oh,
but in
sure.
those events, like everybody for that short window of time is technically your enemy, because I'm trying to outdo you and outscore you and navigate to that best area. And especially when it's like a muscle memory situation of an event where, I know like, hey, last time I had this big score, this huge box where it was like $50 books all the way through. Like I'm going to mentally try to plan to get to that same spot, hoping that luck strikes again, or at least that area. Right.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately cherry picking is very profitable, and you can make a good side hustle or business out of it. But I really feel when, that's not something you can scale in the sense of having a programmatic process where like, sure, you can have a fleet of scanners, but at some point you're just like teaching your competition to grow, unless you really compensate them. But like,
and you're cutting into your own margins and
exactly, or just fostering somebody else that's going to like try to attack you later in a sense. So but can you make great money with it? I mean, in no other business can you find an item for even free or like 10 cents, 25 cents, and sell it for potentially hundreds of dollars or $50 and 100x that investment and do it quickly. So like that's why I love books, and that's part of the reason that got me turned on in the sense of like, wow, what an opportunity this is. And it was back in the early days, the demand wasn't anywhere like it is now.
It's It's kind of crazy. So like back in 2009, I think 2009 was the year. It was like a golden year
Big
for
tipping
us,
point for sure.
where it was before Amazon made all these changes, raised their fees and this and that. And
FBA was new.
FBA was really new.
And they were just literally buying that business. You know, you could sell $4 book and still clear like what, $1.50 something. Like it was crazy.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, you know, we were really heavy in cherry picking at that point, and you know, we could go into a store and walk out with 300-400 books.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's like clear $2,000 in potential profit for the day. And it was like literally, it was just like, how quickly can you shovel these books?
Right. There's not enough hours in the day. Those types of situations.
Yeah. And I don't want to be like the type to be like, oh, those were the good days, but those were the good days.
They were. Even though it was still not 4K TV, it was still pretty good days.
Pretty good. I remember having like conversations with like, so even when I was buying books back then, like there were sellers who had been selling since, I've been selling since the 90s and 96 and 90s, like when Amazon first started doing books.
Yeah.
And I remember like talking to some people who early on had bulk operations in the early 2000s. Like, did you run across any people like that, or?
Yeah, they were definitely fewer and farther between, you know, because the technology component wasn't there, which made that barrier to entry so much greater, right?
Yeah.
Like we were using, and I know this has been addressed in other podcasts and broadcasts and things, but you know, Dell Axiom PDA.
Dude, I remember those.
You drop that thing from like 2 feet and it would just shatter either the barcode scanner thing or the PDA itself.
It's like $800.
Like your stomach just hurt, like, you know. And then,
dude, I still remember the scan heads; those were like $300, and the scan bodies were 500 or 200 used.
Right.
And every morning you'd have to pop out the SD card and then plug into your laptop.
Like an old Nintendo, sometimes blowing it, like you shake it and clean it.
Oh man,
it was not pleasant, but and that's been, you know, with Scott IQ and different technologies that exist, that's lowered the barrier of entry, where literally a 5-year-old to 95-year-old can do it, which is great for the industry, but it really makes you have to sharpen your toolkit in the sense of what can you do, and leads you to maximize efficiencies and really study those numbers, which then drives the business. And that's what both of us individually have been able to do on our own throughout the years, which is, you know, pretty exciting, and why we're kind of here to talk to the masses. But yeah, it's been, you know, quite the journey, you know. And,
absolutely.
But,
you know, there's another prolific seller that started in the early 2000s. I don't know if you know him. I don't think either of us know him personally, but there was a guy who started working at a book warehouse doing what we're doing right now.
Okay.
And then eventually that book business folded, and he ended up starting what was the Silk Road on the dark web. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's a dark web is like, you know, like below the web that people can access. And he was trading, you know, legal things, and he started off as a bookseller, which.
Well, I've never been to the dark web. I barely use the regular web. But no, I mean, I've heard of the dark web, but that's interesting. So how about that? You learn something new every day. So sharing knowledge on every level, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'll drink to that. Yeah. Cheers. So when you transition to bulk, what did it look like? Like, do you remember those early days on like what did you beat your head against the wall on?
I remember exactly.
Okay.
So like,
walk me down that path.
Sure. The first load that I picked up, it was from the Goodwill, and I said, "Hey, do you sell books by the pallet?" Because at the time they were dumping the books into the bin.
Sure.
And, you know,
we went to an outlet area.
And I said, "Hey, do you guys sell those?" Just like, and they said, "Yeah, we do." And so we set it up, and I remember exactly how much it was. It was like they charged me $150 a pallet back in 2000. It was big money. And looking back, I got ripped off. But you know, I purchased that at that time. We only had manual pallet jacks. We didn't even have a forklift. And so like unloading that trailer was insane. And then we got the material, and like, again, I think we're still using the PDAs at that point, scanning through the books. And it was just like, I think at the end of the day, we ended up losing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And then the other big problem, of course, was like figuring out how to dispose of all the books that we just bought. And so at that point in time, we just like called a trash company and got a roll-offs. And we just started dumping books in there. And yeah, that was my intro into bulk. And it was like, if someone told me that today, I'd be like, what are you doing? But I was there. You know?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I remember one of the first major purchases I did. I had like a pretty good couple months in a row, and felt that I had all my ducks in a row, and I had some employees, and we're cranking out a couple hundred orders a day, and looking to do some different things. And I'm always, not always, but generally, when I get focused on something, I just need to try it to like prove it or disprove it, right?
Sure.
And I get like hyper focused sometimes, and so I had this opportunity that bookseller, a remainder company, was like going on business, and they had all these truckloads to offer. It was something ridiculous, like 35 or 40 cents a book, but I had to buy a full trailer load.
Sure.
So it ended up being, I remember the total, like $16,500 landed. And like I had to split it on credit cards, and like literally Amazon disbursement pay, and then wipe down and then like go all in right at the time. And this is like every dollar and then some I had like overage, right, of credit card that I had. And I remember being at a dinner for my birthday with my parents, and like I got the email that like, okay, it's going to ship tomorrow, and I'm like, this is all the money I have and then some in the world, and like this better work, right? Like I had no plan B, right? Like I'm all in, and this stuff hit, and then because of the archaic nature of the tools that we didn't have, it took weeks and weeks to process stuff. I never even touched more than like at the time, a couple thousand books at a time, and they were in boxes, easy to manage, and we had a process for that. But Gaylords like you, like we didn't have a forklift, we had a pallet jack, and we had to figure out how to unstack them. And it was like every situation you don't think of, like is just thrown at you all at once. And it was raining when the truck arrived, and like just problems upon problems. But I'll say it worked out. I'm still in the business, and like we made money off the load. But like it's just sometimes you just have to like take that leap of faith and throw yourself into a fire and kind of figure it out along the way. And that's the fun of business. It's a scary part of business, though, that most people kind of keeps them from trying it, right? So like I always applaud anyone that wants to do any type of side hustle, no matter if it's book related or artistic or laborious related, to shovel snow or mow lawns or literally anything in this world, right? You can Uber like on the weekends and make great side hustle money. You don't want to deal with people, do the food option. Amazon has, the flex. Like there's so many ways this world today to make money on your own terms, on your own situation with minimal resources. And that's Absolutely. The beauty of the world right now. Like we're living in such an amazing time. And I can't wait to see like the new technologies that we'll see later in life for our children. We'll see, and what a time to be alive, So
I'm just going to add on to that and Please. Say like on top of, again, just having limitless opportunity, just having that shared knowledge base. Like when you and I started, there was no bookflipper.com or like, the Book Flipper group. And
was he even born? Was Caleb born then?
I don't know. But like I envy the sellers who are starting today and have access to like this wealth of knowledge that, again, you and I'm trying not to like,
I know what you're saying.
We used to climb up the hill both ways to sell books, and it was insane.
Yep. But the knowledge base that we have is something that just built over time. And that's why like new sellers that come in, and we talked about, God, I'm sorry, we talked about this earlier, but we're coming up to a really important time in the bookseller world, right? August is just a phenomenal time to be alive as a bookseller. Like the sales that everybody will make in the next 6 weeks coming up, like literally any day now, like August 3rd or 4th is like the tipping point in, and then like
early September.
Yeah, like the Wednesday, Thursday after Labor Day is like a little, and then that weekend after is like a rug pull, and it's like that's normal. So you get a good like 5 weeks in, but like you're gonna feel like the smartest seller alive, and you're gonna see stuff that you've had on for maybe day one or week one that you listed, and then it finally peaks back up with demand or the price that you had listed, and you're gonna feel really good about yourself and that you're one of the smartest people around. And you are, don't get me wrong, but there's an accelerated demand right now going on because of the back to school nature. And then you have some spillover, like we said, into September, and then comes, October, November, of course, everyone knows the months. I'm not teaching anything new here, but holiday season, November, December, and then January into February, textbook season part 2. So the next 6 months are just like the best time to be alive as a bookseller. But as you mentioned, don't
assume that that's going to be the norm, because February to July is like a drought. May is okay.
Yeah. Hey, June.
And June and July is kind of ramping up a little bit.
For sure.
But
March, April are like death to booksellers. You really got to, plan and forecast and be able to budget your money and be fiscally, fiduciarily, something like that, responsible. That's why I didn't go into that world, right? I don't even know the word. But you really have to manage your money well and not base assumptions on this because, similar to like COVID, if you've been around selling during 2020, we both made some projections based on those sales and say, okay, well, things are up, 30, 50, 100% in this area and well over that in other areas. And that's how it's going to be for the next while. And then last year and this year has proven otherwise. And in the new economy, it's not a bad thing to kind of be flat, because it's kind of like, hey, you're surviving, you're doing well with the new labor conditions and costs of everything. So
absolutely. I'm just curious. Last time I had a conversation with Glenn and I asked him when he started. I don't exactly remember when he started, but he started, I think, around within a month from me.
Okay.
So I started August of 2008, like officially.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious because I knew a couple other sellers who started right around textbook season because that was really the momentum they needed to get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, two things. Number one, how many people, when people actually started, and number two, if they started during sort of off month, when they decided to go full time into this, like, because September and October makes a lot of sense,
right?
And maybe even February where they had solid months, and they're like, hey, you know what? I can quit my full time job, and so I'm curious to see when like Caleb decided to leave his corporate job, and I'm also curious with a lot of the viewers too, like.
We can bring them back in a couple hours.
Yeah.
I know they're watching and lurking, if you will. But we can talk to them at like 4 or 5. It's fine. We're gonna. Yeah.
He's
hello,
back.
Father. Hello, Dad. I'm gonna drink up.
We've been paying attention. I've shared this story a bunch, but I can jump back into it if you want in terms of like when to quit the job. And we talked about this a bit, I think, on episode 12 when you and I talked about like knowing your margins and your numbers. But one of the important things is understanding what it costs to be you. And so we talk about this a lot. Like, what does it cost to be Caleb? What does it cost to be Bill? And the more you can trim that number back and sort of improve your margin in the personal finance side of things, the more that gives you flexibility. Because I was working for Johnson & Johnson. I had just been promoted to manager. I had a pretty good income coming in. I just cracked 6 figures. I thought I was living the dream. And if you're trying to if that's your target, when you're trying to build your book business, that's certainly attainable, but it's going to take a while to build up that inventory. So if that's your goal is to replace your income, you've got a pretty high threshold to meet versus if your goal is to replace your expenses rather than your current income, then that leaves you a little bit more margin. Again, most people have income of this, they're spending this, or with credit cards, they're spending greater than the income. But if you have a margin, that lowers the bar, lowers the threshold. Normally we want to raise the bar, but in this case, we're lowering it. And so my target was to offset my expenses. And I did books on the side until it was generating, 40 to 50 grand of net income.
But what month was that?
Oh, what month did I make that decision?
Yeah. When did you quit? When did you put in your notice?
Man, I thought we had moved past talking about months of the year. That's like elementary. Good question. So I quit my job it was a 2-stage approach. I kind of backed off. So I quit my job at Depew, so Johnson & Johnson, in probably May or June.
Oh.
And then moved out to Denver. And then I quit my job in about October. And part of the reason I quit then is I knew textbook season was coming. I knew that was going to be a big boost for my business. And we were just getting ready to launch eFlip. So I kind of had a couple stakes in the fire. I knew that the inventory levels were growing and I could focus on it. And I knew that there'd be a really good, December, January to kind of boost me, even though I was stepping away from my job around that time.
I feel that that's really smart what you did, Caleb. But I think most people, they have a really good sales month and they're like, yeah, I'm going to
screw this.
Yeah, screw this. I'm out. Exactly.
What I did was I was selling, this and that, even in high school, but then all throughout my 6 years of college. Yes, I'm on the 6-year plan. But after that, and that was partially to pay for my way through the last 3 years I went part-time. But anyway, I digress. I told myself, after I graduate, I will give it 1 year. And I don't care. I don't want to make any money. I just want to be near break even, because I'm willing to throw away a year of this to educate myself and live on the streets, if you will, and roll up my sleeves and the streets of business, if you will, and figure it out that way. And after 1 year, I was a little under still, but I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And actually, it was July 12th, I believe. I have it in my calendar every year. It reminds me when I incorporated officially, Red Carpet Books. So, and then of course August came, and I thought, hey, this is easy. I'm good. I'm golden, And then they had a good couple months with the holidays and stuff, and January, and then of course April, and March hits you like a bus, and yeah. So, but one of those things. So.
I think like the first 2 or 3 years of doing business, every March I had to ask my parents to like, hey, can you like toss me $2,000? And I mean that was a lot of money for them, but it was just like I needed it because again, like when you're first starting out, you don't know the ebbs and flows of the business and the market.
So speaking of that, though, that's almost one of the maniacal things about this business is when you're doing bulk, right? We'll kind of bring it back to why we're here. And I warn and kind of advise all of our clients, and this is if you're wanting to go in the bulk world, you have to be willing, and not because I did it, but you have to be willing to essentially that first almost year or two to take all your profits and reinvest them into things that will maximize your efficiencies later. Because like as you grow a business, you say, wow, I need a pallet jack, I need a Gaylord tipper, I need a forklift, I need this, I need more shelving. You can't sell more books without these vital things. But guess where that's coming from? Your profits. If you don't reinvest your profits, you're just going to completely plateau all the way, and then look back a year or two later and say, well, why haven't I grown? Well, because you're going to Bora Bora, or buying a Tesla or Tesla alcohol. I just recently learned they have. And sorry, Caleb showed us before the broadcast his fancy bottle. Oh, here it is.
Coming out. This is more of a collector item. I don't know that I'll bust it open because they're going for about $1,000 now.
Next time I get to Indiana, we'll cranking that open.
We'll see. I'm going to put this under lock and key. Well, before you continue that conversation, I guess a good question is related to exactly what you just said is, when is a good time to quit, or when is a good time to step away if you have this on the side? Because you're always going to be making investments. By nature of our, it's an inventory game, quote unquote. But in order to grow the business, you need to invest money and capital. So at what point do you know that your business is safe, that your income is safe? Is there a number? So Dave Ramsey always talks about having like 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank. So again, not your normal income, but being able to replace your standard of living. So is there a metric? Did you guys have a metric with that? Or you just said, hey, I feel like the business is taking off, I'm going to wing it, let's go?
I was younger, obviously, and I was stupider. Maybe not so much, obviously, but like I didn't have any. I was self-taught, so I didn't have any knowledge of anything, and I still would advocate that every day or every week I learn new things about life and business and this industry in general. So no, I didn't have any of that. I just said, how can I do this more? How can I kind of learn this role and pass it on? How can I effectively do it and manage it and watch the numbers and then pass it along to somebody else? And then that's how I will grow the business. And as long as this month's deposit or this month's profit is in line with last month, or hopefully better, then I'm in the right direction. And not every month will do that, but if the greater trend is near that way, then I feel good about it. And obviously, there's always outside factors that can prohibit that or inhibit that or change that. But just you have to have that mindset that no matter what, I'm doing this, I'm in, and I don't care what happens. I mean, we both talked about different suspensions we've had, both on Amazon and eBay. I've been suspended off Amazon, over 10 times. I couldn't even imagine. And I had 2 accounts, so I mean, it's probably close to 20 between the two. Like I should have well been kicked off, and I've been told no several times by them, and like did steps that I don't think anybody would at the time. But I just believed in what I was doing so much and got back. And like I said, it worked out. But like, I don't take no too lightly most times, so there's always times, but for the most part in business, like there always seems to be a good compromise if you believe in it and you can add value. So yeah. Like today, hey, I want to be a Cameo, but now all of a sudden we're doing this. So I should have said no.
Well, we're just tired of asking all the questions, so we figured we'd outsource it Because Avery always says if you want to grow your business, you need to outsource. So thank you for letting us outsource the podcast to you today.
I wonder if Bill, are you Filipino? Because Avery only outsources to Filipino VAs. So,
do you work for $2.50 an hour, Bill? That's what we're trying to ask.
Well, I have. I might again. You never know.
That's why you're aging. You're putting your age on. You're showing your age.
I am. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Well, most servers though work for that, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
tips.
that's
So I
true.
mean, I think I'd make a great bus person. Or
Bill, what was minimum wage when you had your first job? Do you remember?
$5.35, and it was a union job at the Jewel, which is like a grocery store, like Albertsons, whatever. So like of that, it had to be like they skimmed, 8 to 10% off of whatever for whatever. And I was actually hired at the age of 15, and I worked for a month, and they kept me on not knowing because I was so tall and lanky. And then when my name tag came back with like a blue line as opposed to an orange line or something, they're like, you can't work here. And I'm like, what did I do? And they're like, nothing, you're too young. You got to wait till you're 16. And I'm like, oh, okay. And can I work when I'm 16? They're like, yeah, you're great, but like you got to wait a month and a half. And they couldn't believe that like nobody ever caught on the form that like my application that my birth date was younger. They just assumed like, oh, he's tall, he's of age, and yeah. So, but it was I had a blast. It was fun, but yeah, for nothing money wise. But that's the point. If you love what you do, like the money doesn't matter. And if to our point of like what led me to be a bookseller, I love the fact that like these books here, if I sold a book that this item that we procured and we determined was good enough for the event or for online or whatever, is with that person through a good time or bad. Maybe they're reading it for self-improvement, or they're going through a struggle in life, or they're trying to, become healthier or find a new job that's going to propel them, or start a business that's going to, hopefully provide generational wealth if lightning strikes, right? And that a little part of me is with thousands and thousands and millions of people. And that's what, like, intrinsically, the buyer doesn't even have any idea that I'm thinking of that, but I know that like a little bit of me is with all these people that, and I'm on their shelf, I'm on display. Like, it's neat to have like a little touch of something with people indirectly, and that's what drove me at the festival business to do that well, and online to do that well. And
now with
it's just neat.
Now with people that you work with buying books back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that could be the money that helps them, start something that we're paying that they can't use the books. And, maybe we're helping bridge a rent payment or a car payment or something, or, it's so much can be used. But that's why I love the book business. And, the money is nice, but like the value and the providing of knowledge is just, it's the oldest industry. So, or one of the oldest industries.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But so when so I was able to tour David's warehouse today, and really impressive. It's about a 20,000 square foot facility, and super used to the space. So they have nice vertical shelving that's not too high, because you can run in that trap, right? Where you go really high, and then it becomes A, a liability, and B, a burden to get those books.
And C, a liability.
And C, a liability, right? You don't want anybody, when you're doing bulk, you really have to be honed in on every cost to move your book from into the warehouse all the way through the steps that it has to process and determine if it's viable for online, condition grade, to shelving worthy, to pick, to pull, to ship.
It's a lot of steps.
It's a lot, and every touch, guess what? Costs money. Exactly. He knows his stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. And the more efficient you can do that means you can have different margins and different scopes and different perhaps long tail abilities. That the book that you might say is not worthy to sit in your garage or your storage unit because you have limited finite space. This guy here might say, oh, I'll hold it because I have a year. I have the space to hold it for a year or longer, and I can wait out that time. And that's the beauty of being in bulk, is that the metrics, if you will, or we look through things through a different lens, and that's why I also enjoy doing things in volume. But it doesn't come with ease. It's not like you woke up and said, hey, I'm gonna have a 20,000 square foot warehouse. I'm gonna have 18 to 20 employees. I'm gonna have all this going on, and super impressive operation, by the way. So thank you for the tour. I know that it's typically closed doors, but thank you. But yeah. But when you were originally there, what was like the first break into bulk? Walk me through that. When you started with bulk, like what was your first warehouse size, and like what was
so we had, when we first started bulk, we had 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
And again, it was just a very limited warehouse, but
at the same location or
different location.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So many times have you moved?
This would be our fourth location if you count the basement.
Yeah. And what did you say about moving earlier? Very good for knowledge for.
Like whenever you move, at least in the book business, I don't have experience in any other business, but every time you move, you are literally putting your business on the line, you know, and I
kind of betting the company.
Betting the company.
Yep.
And because I think the balance that I found tough to navigate, but thankfully I've navigated each time, is getting a space large enough so that you don't have to move again for a while.
Right.
But also not overextending yourself.
That's the trick, right?
And then just getting hammered with moving costs, increased costs. And so, and you know, that's the tough thing too, is like whenever people come to me and say, hey, do you think I should get this space? And it's like, man, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that, you know, that responsibility on my hands. And moving is really tough. Yeah,
it's really walking a tightrope, because like you said, you don't want to overextend yourself and say, wow, my forecast says we'll be here in a few months, and then have this all this empty dead space, because guess what? Space costs money. But you also don't want to be putting yourself back in the situation again where, you know, the walls are closing in and you did all this movement, and obviously when you shift spaces, you have to, you know, kill sales for a little bit or shift sales a little bit, whether you punt them forward or do it creatively. Like there's still always some type of negative effect, no matter how, you know, how well you do it. There's always problems.
Do you, I mean, well, number one, can we talk a little bit about maybe how you guys moved?
I'm an open book.
Okay, cool. So like when we moved the last time, I think we did it the best out of the 3 times we moved. We were a little more strategic. We increased our headcount and started overproducing, and then started allocating a portion of that product to the side and just started stockpiling, and then slowly started tapering down until the point where we actually moved, and then we flooded the other warehouse with all the product we had stockpiled. And then as we started winding down on the product we stockpiled, we started migrating all the products that we had at the old warehouse over. And so I think at most, so we were able to get from, you know, full inventory to 0 to full inventory all within about 10 days, I think.
It's really impressive, yeah.
Was that pretty similar to what you guys did? Or
so what we started to do was we had some overlap with the new place. And so we started building shelves there and then listing things there, and then not having it go live, and then kind of whittle a little bit of the current place down. Okay. And then there was some point where both were live. And then
you were doing like dual fulfillment.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Don't recommend it. Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, in retrospect, you know, hindsight's always 20/20 and everything, right? We should have just loaded there, started selling there, and then
flipped it off.
Get to a point where it was like a little bit okay, and then flipped it off, and then moved everything over. But you know, it was our first big move. We had the luxury of, at the old place, to kind of expand into, it was like a piecemeal building, so we were able to grab, you know, 10,000 square feet here, 5,000 there, and so on and so forth. And it was awkwardly shaped, not conducive to like new employees, because it's just a piecemeal of everything. But you know, you live and learn. So but we survived, you know, and that's the thing. So
how long did that moving process look for you guys?
So it was this time last year. So it was like all summer.
So it's very fresh for you guys.
Yeah, like May, June, July, and our goal was like August 1 be completely out.
Just in time for textbook season.
Correct. Yeah. So we want to consolidate.
But we actually did the opposite, and so we took possession in July 1st.
Okay.
July 1st, and then started build out. And then August, we started putting all the shelves in the new space and stockpiling the inventory. Meanwhile, capturing all the sales from textbook season, knowing that we didn't want to cut it off until that winded down. And so our actual date in the first day in the first warehouse was September 11th, 2017. And it was just like right at the end of textbook season. And that's when we felt comfortable flipping off the switch. But
it's a good time.
Dude, it was scary.
Moves are never easy, you know, no
Yeah.
matter what. You look back on even a really flawless one, you can look back on things you can improve. And that's the beauty of business though, right? Like if you're, and of life, truly, I always tell my kids that, you know, mistakes are a good thing as long as you learn from them. And if you're constantly repeating them, if you're a constant, you know, reoffender on these things,
Then your name is David.
and Bill, that's fine. But no, like mistakes are good. Learn from them, and then say, you know what, like next time I'll try better, or I'll definitely do better. But like, you know, those that constantly do the same thing over and over, like, you know, come on. So, but that's the beauty of anything. You can, you know, hindsight's always pretty clear, and that's the fun of business, though.
Yeah, and hopefully by putting this out into the knowledge base, we help some people out, because that was
That's the thing.
stressful year of my life.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, make sure those shelves are bracketed and secure. I liked your stuff with that. You know, you got to be safety, you know, conscious and ADA compliant and all the things that, you know, come into play. And it's just, you want to maximize your space, but you have to do it safely, you know,
Yeah.
because your employees, one bad thing, not good as the owner, you know.
One secret that I've never shared with anyone, but that
Ooh.
you saw, Bill, is that we only hire people taller than 6 feet.
yeah, I did.
So if you ever want
So,
to apply,
I have a future back at Dream Books.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, a little hedge my bet.
if you, what was I going to say? If you think back to like the move, you mentioned that you were talking to Glenn. You said, "Hey, there's a good chance that this is as good as it gets." It's like, this is as good as it gets. Once we move, there's a chance that, you know, we aren't able to have the same performance and results
Oh,
in
for
the
sure.
space.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's everything. Yeah.
How did you? Who ultimately made that decision to make the jump?
So we both knew that we couldn't operate under the same constraints if we were, if you will, stuck at our old place.
Can I ask how big that was?
Yeah, it was 95,000 square
It's
feet.
huge.
Yeah. And now we're at 230,000 square feet. So
It's
quite
massive.
the leap. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have golf carts?
No.
Scooter?
No, nothing.
Okay.
So many times during the day when I'm doing my calls, I'll actually walk the warehouse. So I get my 10,000 steps in every day. And
Central air?
in the office.
Okay. Yeah, same here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But we both knew that something had to be done. And, you know, it is a bet of the company, if you will, in the sense that, like, if enough goes wrong, you know, you can sustain and kind of stay with it, but like things will have to change fundamentally. Like, you know, you can't just be burning money, you know, over and over and think that that's a good business, you know. So, but luckily, you know, things seem to be on a good path. But I mean,
Are you guys back in a rhythm yet, or?
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always improvements we can do, but that's any growing business. you
Sure.
know, so.
But as far as like, I guess after effects from the move, like that's pretty much all taken care of. You guys are used to the new space now.
Yeah, we're used to space.
Filled it in.
I mean, we're. I think that the people we have, it's amazing. Like the staff we have, and I talked about this last time. Like the staff we have is the coworkers and people on board are so talented and so passionate about what they're doing and own their silo. Like, you know, like our customer service, our marketing, our HR, our operations. There's stellar people to work with, but so honed in on what they do. And it's like, it relieves the business owner, Glenn, and myself, because it's, you know, everything's a burden. If it's not Glenn's, it falls to me, you know, like I share weights with him, if you will.
Sure.
Weights of the world in a sense in regards to business. But it's great to just have things happen, you know, and it's a scaled business. So that's why I say, like, if you know your costs and if you know the process and you can determine, okay, this works at X level, like you can pass that baton to someone else that, you know, it's not a lower level position, but it's a task that, like, scanning a book and going through a Gaylord and picking it. I did during COVID when we had to, you know, crush the warehouse staff for a month when things were uncertain back in March, April, of 2020. It was, you know, 3 people in the office, Glenn, the owner, myself, and someone else, included picking books and shipping books, and happily did it. And is that my favorite thing to do? 10, 15 years ago, yeah, it was. But, you know, but you graduate in the sense of, like, the things you have to do, because my skill set is obviously webcasts. and obviously hanging out with you, and obviously, shitting knowledge. But I digress. No, it's not doing that, right? It's finding out business opportunities and talking with people and mutually aligning with folks to add value, right? That's what I'm really good at. And if I focus on that, then guess what? Somebody else can do, the other things. And so that's why I say, like, you have to know the costs in order to grow the business. And but it's fun to network and talk to all the folks and just do what we do,
Yeah.
So, what a world.
So last year, I had a similar, path where, it was just me and my family, and we sort of furloughed, all of our staff,
Yeah.
right?
It happens though, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
any business, like, unforeseen things happen where it's like you got to roll up the sleeves and just do it, because like when your company's on the line or things happen, like you do what you got to do, and you don't think second, you don't think another
Right.
chance about it.
Well, so let me ask you this, like, during that process, I'm sure it had been quite some time since you actually scanned a book. And like for me, it was too. It was like, I couldn't remember the last time I answered customer emails and this and that. And like, I know I gained a lot from the 2 months that I did that.
Mad respect for what people do, like, right? And like, how do I make that process better? Like, it gets you thinking again, like, what can we do?
Like boots on the ground.
Yeah.
We had an ex-Apple employee, and they mentioned that, their executive, I don't know if
Like
it's
Apple
still-
Farm or Apple.
Apple,
Look at this guy hiring tech.
so,
They meant like the orchard, like down in Boulder.
Oh
So,
yeah, exactly.
Denver apples are world-renowned, delicious.
Yeah, world class. But this guy from Apple, he was saying like how they would have executives going down and actually doing a lot of the work, once a month, or I think it was 1 week out of the year or something like that for some period. And it was for exactly that, is because you can look at numbers and you can look at metrics all you want, but actually getting your hands dirty sometimes, like some things stick out that you don't see on paper.
DoorDash does this. They make everybody, even the CEO, do like X amount of deliveries a month. And I don't know if they still do it, but they did it at some point recently. And for that very factor, because like it's that old saying, right? Until you are in my shoes, you don't know what I go through on the day-to-day struggles. And I think it's brilliant.
I think it's really helpful.
I walk the warehouse. Part of the reason besides the steps is just to see that things are in line and to see if there's things. And I talk to as many folks, and as simple as like, hey, what are we doing well? What are we doing bad? And even like we had a employee lunch a week or two ago for both shifts, and both were like, hey, you know what? This food is great, but we'd really like this. Can you make it happen? I'm like, sure. And then it's a simple, listening to that feedback, right?
What did you get them, and what did they ask for?
Somebody else, not me. Don't say what I got. But we had like sandwiches and things, and they came with like a brownie and like a fruit and then like a sandwich. And everybody's universally wants pizza. So I'm like, okay, we can do that. So, it's a simple thing sometimes, right? Like, so, but you have to be open to feedback in any business and change and listening to your employees, and to a point too, because like, again, we talk about things, but we just, all we do is talk. Like, we're just so much sharing back and forth. You all really need to like come out to our next city event and talk too. Yeah. But it's an entrepreneur's curse, where like when you start to see opportunities like in the book world, and then think of like what more you can do. You can, if you're doing too much, you can unfortunately do a lot of things, but do nothing well. And it's why it takes like extreme focus to be a bookseller and try to be a great bookseller. And then perhaps, add on other verticals, like OA and this and that. But like, it's just, our minds work collectively differently, right? Like entrepreneurs, where like there's so much to do. I want to conquer the world, and you have to have the discipline to do it in baby steps. I mean, we didn't get to where we are overnight. I would say I'm still not where I want to be, and I've been selling books for 25 years. Yes, David, I started at the age of 2. Thank you. But it's crazy. You just have to keep grinding, and that's what this business is. So.
Absolutely. I think to your point, I don't think.
Which one? I made so many.
Well, like to your point where, I don't think that I do everything exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. I think there are maybe 2 or 3 strengths that I really have. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you would agree with.
For sure. Too. I agree. You do only do
just drink beer and do these podcasts.
Yeah. No. I know you mean me. And yes, I would agree. I have very limited what I do well, you know, but I'm one of the people that constantly strives for more and to better myself and to acknowledge like, okay, I'd like to change this about me or like to do this better. And, you know, quite recently or this year I started running, and it's like, you have to be able to invest in yourself and in your health because health is wealth, you know. And,
health is wealth. I'll drink a lot to that.
Jack Daniels is very healthy. And,
so let me ask you this, like, because before you started working with Sellback Book, you were able to scale your business to, I mean, I think you said you had like 4 sub companies or brands under your company, and I'm sure you had a pretty decent staff for the larger events. And so like one of the strengths that I'm repeatedly seeing like for people who've been able to scale up successfully is the ability to again just sort of have interpersonal exchange and I guess management as well. And I guess being, I don't know, maybe I think being good with people will ultimately lead to you being a good manager. Good managers are good with people. People who are good with people aren't always great managers, right?
Yeah, you want to be straight with people in the sense of like telling them sometimes the tough conversations.
For sure.
And with that, sometimes, you know, you anger them or upset them a little bit. But on the other hand, like you have to be respected and maybe, I don't want to say feared, but like when you say something, they have to follow through, right? So like it has to have some type of substance, right? There has to be, you know, you can't let the proverbial person come in late, you know, every single day,
100%.
you know, or like, you know, manipulate what you have going on because it suits them. Like at the end of the day, there is a person running the ship and in charge, and like it or not, like that's the rules. And like you have to be, unfortunately, a little tough sometimes, you know. And with that said, like of course, when the unfortunate circumstances happen, to have enough leeway and compassion and empathy for your employees, because without them, you're nothing, you know, and the company would collapse. So it's always a balance, you know. And
did you sorry to interrupt?
No,
like did you start from zero? Like you had no managerial experience before you
business experience. I mean,
So what did your managerial sort of journey look like in a nutshell? Did you read books? Did you learn from other people? Or
so it's funny. The very first employee I had was actually a family, like a friend that I had in high school that she worked at the mall, and I knew she and her family lived like a half mile from my office warehouse. And I said, hey, I actually went to the mall to like find her, and because I knew that like we had talked and said like she's a couple years younger than me in high school, and said like I don't think you're having a good time here. Whatever you're making, I'll pay you an extra $1 or $2.
You said that to her?
Yeah. At her, like actually at the mall. Like I said, hey, you want to go have like lunch with me, whatever. And she's like, yeah, I don't like working here. And I'm like, come work for me. I'll make it easy. I'll pay you, you know, more. You have a better commute.
She tried, like she believed you.
Yeah, we were friends.
Okay,
I was more friends with her sister, but like I just knew that she was like from her sister that she wasn't happy with that particular job. And then from her, I said, okay, now I'm going to business. Do you have a friend that could do this? Like, you know what it takes. You know, I'm a fair guy. It's like, sure. And then from her, I had another friend.
But
and
do you think you were good? Did you manage them effectively?
Initially, probably not, because like I'm a good critic on myself and a tough critic on myself. But like I was always fair, and you know the nature of that business. Like at the time, I didn't need set hours, so I was very flexible to say, hey, if you have, because she was in theater and stuff, like if you have production this month, like you as long as it gets done at some point during the day, I don't care. But it has to go out tomorrow. You know, you want to come in at 7, you want to come in right after school, fine. You know, whatever. So that flexibility goes a long way in that sense. Like now we can operate like that and have 50 employees or 100 employees, like all self-managing. Like, but when you're small, you can be nimble and flexible on your feet. So, but I always think I was fair and did a lot of things for them. And
did you read books, watch YouTube?
I mean, was even YouTube a thing in 2000? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know. My uncle was a good. He was a manager at Toyota and instrumental in teaching me lots of things. He was a branch manager at Toyota, so he managed like a good 150 people or so. Wow. This was his watch. So
wow.
Yeah. But you learn along the way. You pick up tips and tricks from those that inspire you and hope to inspire. And
it's starkly similar how I have an uncle too, and he's actually pastor of a large congregation. I would say that he is in a non-traditional sense, a great manager, because he does kind of have to manage and taper expectations for a large, body of people. And, that's where I got a lot of my ideas and inspiration from. And, like, he never sat me down and he never said, "Hey, David, this is how you do it."
Sure.
But I guess just leading from example, right?
Yeah,
And just like by proximity, I was able to pick up some of the things that he was doing exceptionally well. And I mean, still to this day, I see him and I'm like, wow, he's so incredible. But and again, just definitely having those mentors that are super close by and accessible is been really important to me. And it makes me feel very grateful.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy to look back and along the steps and all the good things and bad that the things went well and the things didn't go so well, and reflect and self-reflect on all that. But and so speaking of leads me to my next question.
Sure.
I don't have anything here. So some of the big mistakes along the way that were made, like if you had to go back in time, do you have like one or two that stick out where like you wish you could quote unquote turn back time and reverse fortunes, or was there something that you just kind of grinds you to this day where you look back and say, man, I was a big, dumb, stinking, bumbling, moronic, I'm looking for more words here, idiot.
I got you.
And I would never say that about you, but this is somebody wrote in.
Sure. So I'll answer this. I want to hear your answer.
Okay.
To this, and then maybe we can move on to questions if there are any.
I was thinking, as a wrap up. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah. I don't mean this in a cliche way, but I really look back at all my mistakes, and I truly do look at them as like, if I weren't the one to actually do that and like feel the pain of all my mistakes, I would have never learned from it, because I always did so poorly with like getting feedback and advice from other people, because I was just always stubborn, and I still am pretty stubborn.
But that's I would say that's a true testament to where you are today, is that you are stubborn, right? Because this business does require like being so headstrong on staying the course and giving it time and letting it grow and marinate and believing in yourself and your team and all the things you do. Because I mean, you guys do so much. You keep so much out of landfills. You add so much value to your charitable partners and business partners, and it's I won't go into it and bore everyone to death, but they do a lot of really good stuff.
Thank you. So I mean, like, I don't look back and regret any of the mistakes, like buying my first ball club. I don't look back and I'm not thinking like, man, I can't believe I spent X amount of dollars doing that to lose money.
Right.
But that being said, like, I guess I think one of the biggest mistakes I made is not asking for help sooner, and not, you know what I mean? Just like not bringing in people who could just like.
It's mine. Unfortunately, that's mine. I was early on saying I can do it all. Like, okay,
100%.
There's 24 hours in the day. I can pick all the books. I can ship all the books. I don't need to sleep. I'm young. I'm spry, agile. Like I need to do it all. I need to learn it, because why would I ever pay someone to do it when I can just work another hour to do this? Like, to me, I didn't equate the time to money valuation, right? And now it's a complete opposite, in the sense where it's like, okay, and once I had that tipping point, it was the exact opposite, where it's like, I need to focus on my strengths, and that will be what drives the business. I'm not going to grow the business if I'm doing all the picking, the packing, the pulling, the customer service, et cetera, and sourcing the books at the libraries, or making the deals with the Goodwills and the Salvation Armies and libraries. And we had a pretty big fleet in the Midwest here where we were working with libraries in that sense. And if I'm driving in a truck going up to XYZ and maybe having a helper or two load it and unload it, but like everything else is on me, like that's not a business. And I can't keep that pace for, I can do it short term when I need to, but I can't extend that for months and months or years and years. And I tried to, and I did, and I shouldn't have. And until I acknowledge that was my biggest mistake. And I rode that pony way too long. But
like, beyond the physical too, and we'll wrap up with this, but beyond the physical, I mean, also just like when I was younger, I refused advice. Like, someone would say something that contradicted my worldview or my view on the business,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't even go in one ear out the other. It would like literally hit a brick wall and fall out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wonder if that was the same for you, where maybe as you got older, you became more open to advice, or maybe that was just me. Were you always open to criticism and feedback?
Yeah, I think I was, in the sense like I knew what I had to do, but it was like actually doing it. Like there were things that I knew needed to happen to grow the business, but yet I was still. The thing is, and I think this is a commonality of many folks. Like when you're in a comfortable space, it's very predictable, right? Like risk is something that everybody defines on their own terms, right? Like what I consider risk might not be what you consider risk or you consider risk.
Sure.
And but it wasn't always that way, right? Like I was very risk adverse. I should say I was not very risk adverse in the sense when I was coming up, because I had nothing to lose, right? I gave it that $16,000 it was a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, what's the worst that'll happen? I'll have to work really hard, and I'm confident in myself that someday it might be 32,000 with interest and whatever, and it could be years and years, and I could be eating ramen forever, and I may be stuck in my parents' basement till I'm 42, like I am now. And not in my parents' basement, but I'm that old, okay? But it could be like that bad for that long. But I didn't care. And I had nothing to lose. I had only upside in my mind to gain. Whereas now I'm much more risk adverse, right? Because, I know the struggles that it was to get anywhere, not even just somewhere, but like literally anywhere, because there's so many factors in life that are against you, in the sense, in the business world, where it's like, and so much can go right all the way, and then just you're chopped at the knees, like out of nowhere, you get blindsided, like, all the things that can change.
COVID, shelves collapsing.
Yes. So it's like you can't plan for that, but you need to keep that in the back of your mind, and not to be like a doomsday person, but like you have to always think of every possible scenario,
Plan for contingencies,
and then be adaptable when that thing that you didn't even think of happens.
Man.
So in that instance, I'm much more risk adverse because I know the struggles and the
you have
just
more
random stuff
years under your belt of
Correct.
experience.
Correct.
Cool.
So, but that doesn't mean that I don't take chances now and then, but they're more calculated in the sense of like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? What can we do? So I would hope that we can go to 1 hour and 39 minutes and 1 second, because that would beat Avery's webinar from last week or two, whenever he was on.
Can we?
That number stuck out. So yeah, if we want to open it up and see if the audience has any questions, maybe loop back in. What are their names? Mark and Caleb. Hey, Caleb and Matthew. There you guys are. Hi.
What's going on? What are you guys doing here?
I think we're doing best viewership ever.
I'm surprised you're still awake.
Surprised I'm still awake.
And we're going to get hopefully 2 more today. And
I don't know what audio is coming through there. I don't know if he knows he's up.
Yeah, Caleb was watching a YouTube video.
He's learning how to speak English proper. Enjoy your tea and crumpets, Caleb.
Should we add him back in?
I don't know. Just dump him. You don't need him. Fine, bring him back in. Okay.
There he is.
Cheers, mate. Hello. It's a still picture. It's a
frozen.
Blink.
His mic's muted also.
Okay, there we go.
Blink if you're.
There we go.
All right, I think we got it. My computer's been running slow, and I'm one of those guys that has about 400 tabs open on Chrome. My computer was like constricting, probably some RAM issue, and finally it played every YouTube video I had up. So.
It's okay. We're just happy you're both, like David said, both awake and paying attention, that we didn't put the whole audience.
We're still following along, drinking along.
All right.
Some of us are done.
Too. So I'm gonna be.
We need to refill over here if we're gonna do some Q&A.
I tried to give you this bottle, David, but it's not going to be
much of a bottle. Yeah. Might be a few drops.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right. No, it's all in good fun though. But I think we could definitely open it up to some viewer.
Just a couple questions.
A couple questions. I'm willing to go, like I said, another 16 minutes so we can beat
I was
Avery.
going to say, Bill's not competitive at all. He's not comparing any of the previous customers or interviewees, but here we are.
And I have no Excel spreadsheet on past viewership of previous episodes. I don't track that at all either.
I am actually going to take a quick restroom break.
All right.
I'll be back in 2, but it's all you, Bill.
All right. Hello. Feels like my mugshot from.
You want to interview yourself, or how's this going to work?
No. Yeah, if there's any questions, I mean, now's the time, right?
I'm going back through the questions right here. Let me grab some.
What we got? This lighting is in and out here. I don't know.
Well, it's still, the night is still young there in Denver, so you guys have a whole evening ahead of you.
We do. We have some dinner plans. That's all I know.
Where's he taking you tonight? Maybe we shouldn't say it live, just in case others papers out there. But
Irish spot, he said. Mick Donald's.
nice, I've heard of it.
Nice.
It's a Denver staple, that's for sure.
No, he it's a. I don't know. He mentioned it before, but it was not something that was. I could not remember. I cannot remember. But I'm looking forward to it.
He will treat you well, I'm sure. He's a good, very, very generous host.
For sure. No, nothing but the best. So about those questions, eh?
All right, let's put this one up here. Yeah, here's a good one. So I'm curious why large operations like Bill's and Dave's almost go exclusively MF. I figured it'd be more profitable with FBA is basically what he's saying. So what is the reason some larger operations go exclusively MF?
So FBA is certainly a profit generator in the sense for most sellers, but it's more of a laborious process from most software standpoints, right? So like there's definitely a lot of opportunity there, but I would say the merchant fulfillment folks see the better opportunity to have that leverage to hold the item themselves and perhaps sell it on other marketplaces like Alibris or Abe or wherever. And there's a value to hold it themselves. Yeah. Remember, it's a volume game in the sense of what we're looking at. So like not every book has to be profitable in order for the greater good to be achieved. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Well,
makes perfect sense.
it lowers your threshold. So if you're able to get some of the volume discounts, then right now we talk about if you have a deck of cards, you get to choose where you cut the deck, so to speak. And if you only do FBA, then you can have limited overhead, limited employees, and you can choose to only deal with books that'll make, $3, $4, $5 minimum. But you're going to have fewer books in your stack that you can make money with. Versus if you're doing merchant fulfilled, you can lower that threshold. And if you get bulk shipping, you can lower that threshold even further, which allows you to repurpose more books, et cetera. So there's some benefits that come with economies of scale, but you have to also be willing to then, you can't just get the benefits without some of the side effects. And those side effects are increased overhead, increased labor. There's definitely headaches that go along with that.
I think that's like verbatim what I just said, but okay.
No, but it's differently and with a bluer shirt. So
no, yeah, it's more eloquently put. See, business speak is not my thing, but like then I say something and then someone like Caleb comes in and like makes it sound really good, and then yeah.
I only said it because we're gonna clip it out later and make little snippets for Instagram and all that. So
no, but it's spot on. Whatever Caleb said is even better.
Do you have anything to add to that, David?
Yeah,
That one question.
Everything that Caleb and Bill.
Everything Caleb said? Okay, perfect.
Do you even know what they asked? It's not about.
they don't know. That's irrelevant.
Well, here's a question for Caleb then that popped up. I'll let you take that one, Caleb.
Uh-oh. All right, question about Scout.
Yep.
Scoutic. Why does it come up gray when I scan music and CDs or music CDs? It's never red or green. Well, red and green refer to Christmas. It is not Christmas time, so we do not deal with seasons. But realistically, Shane, I think this came up earlier. So if you're still watching, thank you. If not, you can check it out later. You just need to set up triggers for music. We set up triggers by default just for books because most of our customers are books. If you decide to do CDs or DVDs or video games, we have preset triggers, but you do need to turn those on. You can Google Scout IQ triggers or go to YouTube and type in Scout IQ triggers and see how that all works. And if that still doesn't work, Monica's got your back. She handles our support. She is incredibly patient and understanding and very knowledgeable. And you can email support@scoutiq.co, and she will take great care of you. And if she can't, she'll kick it back over to us. So triggers are there. You simply need to toggle them on. You can do that at our web portal. And again, support@scoutiq.co for more.
One more great question for you. Did that bottle go to space that you were holding earlier? Is that why it's so valuable?
I think it would blow up if it was in space. So no, it has just been on planet Earth, and maybe someday when we figure out how to get outside of our Earth's gravitational pull reliably, then maybe we'll take it with us. That'd be a fun celebratory drink.
That would be actually awesome as a test payload when they're doing Starship test, because if it actually goes up and successfully comes back down, the batch of bottles that went to space would be worth so much money. And it doesn't matter too much for them if they blow up. So, I think it'd be a cool experiment to run.
Well, if they're willing to toss a Tesla into outer space, for sure, they could probably sample some tequila. Although if aliens do exist and they did test Americans' bourbon and tequila and alcohol, it's possible they would invade us much more quickly than previously planned just to get that quality. Or they would say it's swill and they'd leave us alone. So I don't know. You can choose which way you want to go with that.
This is an interesting question. What do you guys consider to be a newbie? A year or a dollar amount reached?
Ooh. At what level do you lose newbie status? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
I think it's time for me no matter what. Because I know a lot of sellers who stay under a certain dollar amount, but they know so much about this industry. They just decide not to scale it beyond a certain amount, unless that dollar amount's $100.
Hey, other side of the coin, someone could be in the business for 2 years, but only give 1 hour a week. So are they no longer a newbie?
I think it's got to be a combination of both, just because at David's point, I would weight the time more than the dollar amount. No, because look, I could sell a yacht, okay, and make a clear $1 profit, but it could be $1 billion yacht. But
yeah, but if you could find a buyer for $1 billion yacht,
but it's $1 I didn't have yesterday, and I made $1. Like, boo-hoo to you. I made $1, and but yet I sold $1 billion yacht. So yeah. And that does nothing, right? But I could claim $1 billion, generated $1 billion in sales, but sold one thing.
Oh, this is a good comment right here.
Hello.
It's when you don't consider yourself a newbie, but you can become a newbie again, such as when you start doing new processes. That's pretty good. You can be a newbie at new parts of the business all the time. I like that.
That's true. Well, it's constantly reinventing yourself, which I would argue, not even argue, nobody's arguing here, but is a sign of a healthy business and a successful business. Like David and I have stood the test of time in a sense, and certainly what worked for us back in the early stages that we talked about are long, fond memories, but are laughable in the sense to try to do those today. And even intrinsically, what worked a year ago, maybe barely works today. So you have to be constantly watching every metric and every part of your business and be, forecasting what can come ahead and being creative and innovative to say, this is going to be that next new thing that we can kind of, tack our trailer onto and ride along for a little bit until we have to figure out a new situation. But I would say in that sense, I'm still a newbie, and I'm going to be a newbie as long as I'm in this business, really.
Absolutely. So I want to chime in on this, and I don't know if we'll have to have Bill out for another time, because I don't know if we can break the record. They have a board meeting scheduled here in the next 10 minutes or so. But that being said,
4 o'clock, we're okay.
Yeah.
Beat Avery.
All right,
beat Avery.
We'll try to beat Avery, even if it's us running out of this room.
Walk slower.
Can I make one comment as you are you going somewhere with this, Dave? Or are you switching gears before we leave this?
No. Yeah, I was just gonna say, on the newbie thing, all I'll say is I personally don't believe in labeling yourself as a newbie, because again, it's we all start somewhere, and it's I think by labeling yourself a newbie sort of has negative connotation.
So to your point, I think you can it's a good mindset to have that newbie feeling, in a sense where everything's new, everything's fresh. We were talking about this earlier. 10 times I get a stamp. I had to say it one more time before it ended. But I'm still excited every day in this business. I wake up every day excited and happy that I am a bookseller and to be what I do, to be who I am and what I do. And I hope to never, ever lose that feeling. And so I would still say that lots of feelings are fresh, and I get excited when we, break this threshold or find this out or figure out some new little thing. That said, confidence is extremely valuable, and that helps manage your risk and mitigate things and give you the confidence to buy a bulk load or take that next step and say, I am going to quit my job in 3 months or 6 months once I get to set dollar amount or set time or combination of. And that confidence will help you propel to take on employees and take a little risk, because without risk, you just have a little side hustle or a big side hustle. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you truly want to scale, you have to be a little open to stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's, to this day, we both still do that. And I would hope that we can, if you take away anything from this wonderful hour and 34 minutes, we're getting there. Step out of your comfort zone and try something new. Not all the time, but every once in a while, because you never know. If 1 out of 10 things that I do is innovative and actually works, it's worth all the other struggles that all the other 9 failures had, and it makes that gem like super exciting. And those 9 other ones are just forgotten. And like maybe I come back to it and say, wait a minute, okay, that's what I needed to do, later on. But you got to constantly be trying new things, and that's just life. That's a good business. So.
Yeah.
I like it. I think there's that. I'm going to bring back the pendulum idea, but you mentioned confidence, which is very important. But there's also that understanding and that idea of being curious and being humble and admitting I don't know everything. Because if I did, I wouldn't be, I probably wouldn't be flipping books, but I wouldn't be slogging away every day. And so once you've said, I'm extremely confident, the pendulum's way over here, I don't need to learn anything new, that's the moment you start dying. And the idea of growing and learning, and that's why we network, that's why we connect. I had a conversation with somebody today. They just got hired in at my alma mater at Grace College to do fundraising. And so she's brand new. She didn't go to the school. And she's like, she's asking questions and how do I go about this? And I said, well, you have the luxury now. I don't know how old she is, but in her 30s or 40s, if you're ever going to guess younger. And you get to be a freshman all over again. I said, you just started this job. You can call up any alum. You can call up anybody from any department at the school and say, hey, my name's X. I'm brand new at this job, and I'd just like to pick your brain or ask some questions or learn how I can serve you better. And you have that luxury. When you move into a new neighborhood, you have that luxury of saying for the first week or month, you can go knock on anybody's door, especially in a small town like Indiana. And Indiana's a state, I realize, but you can go knock on anybody's door and say, hey, I'm Caleb. I'm new to the neighborhood. I just wanted to introduce myself, say, hey, and I'm your neighbor down there. And, if you ever need a cup of sugar, come visit. Once you've been there a year, if you haven't done that, you've lost that chance to be the freshman. You've lost that chance to kind of go over and say, hey, I've been here for a year and I've avoided you for a year, but now I'm going to come say hi, right? You kind of lose that ability. So I think we can treat our business like that all the time and just say, hey, I'm really trying to understand repricing, for this next year or this next couple of months. Can I pick your brain? And people are very, very open to that. So be curious, stay thirsty, my friends, or stay curious, my friends, however you want to say it. But I think that's you'll see that characteristic in entrepreneurs, and that will serve you incredibly well.
For sure. And I agree with the curiosity part. There's a book I read, the producer of, he was Ron Howard's partner. He made a lot of movies, Apollo 11 or 13 or whatever it is. And a lot of the Ron Howard movies he partnered with in the sense of the production companies, Brian Green something. But the book was phenomenal, even though I'm really not selling it well here. But from an early age on, he was curious about the most random things, and it helped him see the world through a different lens. And we all know on like Survivor and the reality shows, that moment where you're overly confident is the moment that you're just taken out and chopped away. And yeah, we got the 2-minute sign here, so we're gonna just make it, which is great. But don't be overly confident. continue your curiosity and
Should we end with
that? Yeah, it's okay. You can come on in.
Yeah.
We got 1 minute to go. Yeah, you could come on in. It's cool. Set up. We got some more visitors. This is the cameo.
Yeah,
this is the cameo I wanted. And it's an hour and a half later.
Game geek out moment.
Yes.
Moment. Let's do it.
All right.
What do you guys have? You guys are up first.
The one thing that's sort of revolutionized or changed, or like something cool to geek out about. I'll start.
Please start. I'm at a loss here.
We started using a sensor that helps us track a lot of different things within our operation. And again, it's software as a service, and we pay monthly for it. It's a way for us to actually just check the fill of our donation bin. And so, yeah, it's been a game changer for us because, again, while it costs us money to have this data, we can now use this data to utilize our resources a little bit more intelligently. And so that's a geek out for me right now.
I was geeking out about it too because I had not heard of such technology, and I was super impressed that you have this technology, and it was amazing. On a personal level, I don't know. I work my hotspot on my phone, and it works. I don't know. I really don't have one lately. I'm not the most techie guy, so I'm just lucky enough that stuff that I have works, and if it doesn't, then I complain to someone, and then they fix it. But I'm not the most techie guy, so I got to kind of take a sidestep on the geekness, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I was impressed by your thing.
Thank you.
It was like I can't wait to like Google about it and read it more.
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
Yeah. Great.
Caleb and Matthew, if you want to share, and then I'm going to put ourselves on mute, and I'm going to start wrapping up.
But we did it though, because in 15 seconds we're going to be an hour 40, and we've got the crown. And then let it be known that no one. My other rider on doing this was that no one else can ever go an hour 40 or more. So we have the crown.
There it is.
Longest webcast. We're very happy. And there it is, 140.
Nailed it. Guys, thank you for your time. Bill, thanks for jumping in number 2. I'm sure we'll have you back for number 3 at some point here. Maybe another, this isn't even a prime number. It's episode 14. We'll get you back in at some point. So thank you for your time. You and David have a blast tonight. Enjoy some of the finer foods and sights of Denver. And we hope to cross paths again very, very soon.
Thanks, Bill. Your mic's muted, but we're thankful for you.
So he's probably just lip syncing.
I appreciate the opportunity. I'm humbled to be a part of it again. They're not even here. David's freaking out. They might come in and like set up some water, but like we can go an hour. No, I really appreciate the opportunity. It was awesome to see David's warehouse and to meet his staff. They may have been bribed with $100 bills to say nice things about him, but no, it's truly a nice operation to see, everybody going on and working happy and for a great mission. And he's a wealth of knowledge and a great friend, and just can't speak enough about you. So, and of course you too as well. I'm proud to be back as your first repeat guest, and hopefully I didn't bore the audience to death, and we can do it again sometime soon for number 3.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Well, I don't have a major geek out moment, so we'll just do a final cheers and wind things down.
Cheers.
There it is. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to tune in next week. I will be on the road in Dallas. If any Dallas booksellers want to say hello, reach out. Caleb at thebookflipper.com, Instagram at thebookflipper, and we can maybe meet up, maybe do a group session with the live show. Maybe I'll distribute Bourbon. We can have like a live studio audience. That'd be kind of fun.
That'll be fun. You should do
if you're
that.
in Dallas, say hello. I will be on the road visiting some clients, and we will talk to you next week. All right. Catch you guys.